You've probably heard that we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? You've heard that, right? But what if the people you're spending the most time with are actually energy-sucking vampires? Oh, that sounds awful, doesn't it? But it could be the case. Everyone in your life counts. And if you have people in your life who are taking more than they're giving, this video is for you. Stay tuned. For me, 2019 was the year of ridding my life of energy vampires. And I want it to be the same for you. So let's make 2020 the year we go into without any energy vampires sucking the life out of us, shall we? After watching this video, you're going to know exactly who in your life is draining your energy and what to do about it. And at the end, I'm going to share the surprising revelation I had personally about the energy vampires in my life. And I think it may help you too. Welcome to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina, and we're talking about how to identify the people who are draining your energy in your life currently. And these may be people who have been in your life for a lifetime. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have been a good influence on you. Before we really get to it, I want to make sure you saw my last video on energy vampires because that covers a lot of information on how to spot an energy vampire up front. And a lot of that stuff really applies to the people who are already in your life. But this video talks a little bit more about the patterns that you'll see if somebody is actually really close to you. So both videos are really helpful for identifying any energy vampires, either somebody you just meet or somebody who's been in your life forever. So that video is going to pop up right here. I highly suggest you watch it before you watch this one or after, but definitely watch it so you can really spot any energy vampires that are draining you. Now, one more thing before we get to the tips, I want to talk about narcissists. Now, oftentimes energy vampires are narcissists. Narcissists are always energy vampires, but energy vampires aren't always narcissists. Sometimes they could be people with other personality disorders, they could be other emotionally abusive people, or they could be normal people with high levels of narcissistic tendencies. So just because somebody in your life is not a narcissist doesn't mean they're not an energy vampire. So let's walk through these tips and see if you have any energy vampires in your life. Okay, so my first tip is to pay attention to how you feel after an encounter with that person. Now, when you think energy vampire, you might think, well, I might feel tired after I'm with that person. And that might be true, or it might not. These people will always drain your emotional energy. And sometimes, depending on your personality, that might also make you physically tired, and sometimes it may not. But they will always drain your emotional energy. So pay attention to how you feel after an encounter with this person. Do you feel uplifted, motivated, inspired? Or do you feel kind of down in the dumps? Do you feel like depressed or sad? Do you feel just kind of like in a bad mood, like you're irritated with life in general? Pay attention to how this person makes you feel, especially if they make you feel bad about yourself. Now, an energy vampire is somebody who they can make you feel bad in all kinds of ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be making you feel bad about yourself. That's more of the narcissistic personality who will do that. But if somebody is making you feel bad about yourself, they might be doing it in a subtle way. Maybe they're just questioning all your decisions or correcting you with everything you say. There's very subtle ways that people can do this, but if you have a conversation with this person, even if you respect this person, if you walk away feeling like they know everything and you know nothing, or they're amazing and you're terrible, that is an energy vampire. That is not the kind of person you want to be around. Great people don't make you feel that way. So if you're thinking that person is great and then you're walking away feeling like crap, you're wrong about that person. That person is not great. That person is an energy vampire and you need to get out of that situation. Number 2, you need to know that gossip is a major red flag of an energy vampire. Gossip is extremely destructive, and it's not just destructive to the person you're gossiping about. That's what we often think of, right? Well, you're not being nice to that person, and you're not, but they may never know what you're saying, right? But you know. Gossip eats away at your soul. It's not what we're meant to be doing. We're meant to be lifting each other up and thinking positive thoughts. But really, when you're gossiping about something, usually you're exposing your own insecurities and you're focusing on that. And we know with the law of attraction, thoughts become things, right? So if you focus on a whole lot of bad energy, a whole lot of bad energy is going to come your way. It's just really not good for karma overall. So don't do it. If you're guilty of gossiping, we've all done it at some point or another. Don't beat yourself up. Just stop doing it. It's just really bad. And if you know somebody who is just constantly insisting on gossiping, or let me tell you the latest scoop, and it seems juicy, it seems enticing, but you need to resist if you want to raise yourself to a higher level of consciousness. These are very low vibrational conversations that we do not need to be having. And if somebody's obsessed with it, they're probably an energy vampire. Now, to deal with somebody like this, if you want to keep them in your life, but you just don't want the gossip, shut it down. Every time they start to talk bad about somebody else or tell you something inappropriate that they shouldn't really be sharing with you, just change the subject, tell them you don't want to hear it, or maybe if it's something bad, say, well, I'm sure that person had a reason to do what they did, and try to change the subject. You really want to send the message that you're not about this. You don't want to engage, you don't want to encourage this person, you just want out of the conversation. Eventually, they should get the hint. And if not, you can find a reason to excuse yourself. The third way to spot an energy vampire in your life is to evaluate their overall outlook on life. Now, energy vampires tend to be kind of down in the dumps kind of people. These people tend to think of themselves as victims of life. And if you know anybody like that, if you're spending a lot of time with this person, you may start adopting that mindset. And it's not healthy for you. It's not good. Because again, we have that thoughts become things concept. And if you're thinking that you're a victim, then you're going to be presented with more situations where you have the opportunity to play that role. Because that's what you're putting out there. So if you spend your time with somebody who focuses so much on that, you may start seeing those patterns emerge in your own life. And that's not what we want, right? So if you have somebody like this in your life and you want to keep them around, start trying to change the conversation. Because you know what? Just like they're one of your 5 people, you're also one of their 5 people. So if they're acting in a way that is draining your energy, you might be able to have a positive impact on their life outlook. And maybe at the very least, maybe they'll know to curb those types of words and conversations when they're talking to you. Okay, so number 4 is to evaluate someone's listening skills. Now, this can be a little bit tricky because sometimes energy vampires are just obvious, terrible listeners. They never leave room for you to talk in a conversation. And when you do talk, they talk over you. They just never want to hear what you have to say. And so that's obvious. That's okay right there. That is an energy vampire. But sometimes it's a little bit more devious because sometimes the energy vampires are feeding off of what you say. So pay attention to what somebody listens to, especially if this person is guilty of gossiping a lot. Because if they're really feeding off of things you're saying that could be gossip for their other conversations, they're going to look like they're good listeners in those moments. You've got their full attention because either it's something they can use against you at a later time, or they're just going to use it against you behind your back without your knowledge. So pay close attention. If somebody only listens sometimes, pay attention to exactly what they're listening to, because that person is likely an energy vampire. So if you've rooted out an energy vampire somewhere in your inner circle, I want to know, what was the number one thing, the number one red flag that sealed the deal for you? What clued you in to the fact that this person is an energy vampire? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so now that we know how to identify the energy vampires in your life, what do we do about it? How do you weed them out, or do you? Maybe sometimes you don't want to. So let's explore that a little bit further. Sometimes it's simple. Sometimes it might be a new friend and you realize they're not such a good friend after all. And you just say goodbye. Or you just start distancing yourself until that person's no longer in your life. Easy peasy, right? But sometimes it's a husband, wife, mother, father, aunt or uncle, sibling. Sometimes it's somebody who you can't get out of your life or don't want to for whatever reason. So the best thing to do in this case is just have a conversation. Talk about, if you've tried all the tips that I gave you in the earlier part of this as we went through each type of behavior an energy vampire will engage in, if you've tried those simple tips and they haven't worked, flat out have a conversation with this person and let them know what their behavior is doing to you. Let them know that this isn't something you want really in your life, and you want your relationship with them to change and become more positive. It doesn't have to be a conversation where you're pointing fingers at them and you're saying you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong. Just let them know that your conversations and your interactions are ending up making you feel bad, and you want to invite more positivity into your own life. You need their help to do so. Now, if this person does not react well to that, or maybe they react well, but they don't follow through, they just show a blatant disregard for the conversation you just had and the feelings you shared with them, that's a red flag that this person might be emotionally abusive. They might be a narcissist or another emotionally abusive person. Because a normal person who cares about you would want you to be happy in the relationship. They understand that relationships are give and take. But people like narcissists don't understand that. For them, relationships are only take. So if that happens, it's time to really reevaluate that relationship and how important it is in your life. And if it's a case, if it's a parent or if it's a spouse, I'd suggest start looking for other signs of emotional abuse to really get a handle on what is going on in this relationship and whether it's healthy for you. Because if it's really draining your emotional health and making you feel bad about yourself, it's time to make a change. So as promised, I'm going to share the number one revelation I had about these emotional vampires that I had draining my energy in my own life. And that revelation was that I had these people in my life really because I was suffering from a self-love deficit. I wasn't appreciating myself or putting my own needs above someone else's. And when you don't do that, you open the door for all kinds of energy vampires. When you put someone else's needs above yours, when you typically do that, that's your way of being. Like if somebody has something to say, you always let them talk first, or you're happy to let them monopolize the conversation because, well, they've got a lot to get off their chest, or, they always like to unload on me. So, and, I'm here for them at school. That's my role in this relationship. If you're that kind of person, you're not putting yourself first and your own needs first, there's a good chance you have a lot of energy vampires in your life. And as you're weeding out these energy vampires, it's a good time to start practicing self-love. And I have a video that addresses self-love. I'm going to put the link up in the card here. And I suggest you watch that one because there's some good tips there to help you start getting back in touch with your true self and start learning about the things that really make you happy, separate from all these energy-sucking relationships. So if you like this video, please let me know by liking it, subscribe, and be sure to share it with anyone who you think might need these tips. All right, that's all for now. Talk soon.